Hello and welcome back to my Q&A videos. Informal chats, if you like, from the armchair, and in my case, the sofa in my home. I've got a question here from Parsifal David Solomon, and he asks a quite interesting question here. Sometimes you talk about healing the cause of causes, which to me seems like working at great depth, though that doesn't necessarily imply it has to be a huge struggle. At other times, the focus seems to be much more on the surface, oriented towards specific goals. Sometimes this is all people want or need, and of course, the more comfortable they can be in life, the easier it is to address harder or deeper stuff. But how do you identify where it might only be cosmetic, potentially helping people maintain patterns of avoiding harmful underlying issues? If you see any sort of paradox in this sometimes, how do you resolve it? What sort of ways do you use to at least open the door to clients to step into deeper change if they want it or are ready for it? Okay, well, Parsifal, you're coming from a particular position here, that it's necessary to go into deep trance and back into the past to work at a deep level and dig up particular issues in order to resolve a problem. And you're asking me, how would I decide to do that or work at a surface level, cosmetically? Well, I don't do either of those. I don't work cosmetically. It's not a question of tidying up loose ends and on your way. The way I work is with analogies and metaphor and the brain in order to resolve the deep issues that are back there in the past at a deeper level. And we must emphasize they are in the past, but they're maintained in the present by the way the brain functions. So I don't have the paradox of the, I don't have to choose really which direction to go in, because I know that it's possible to resolve, if you like, very deep issues. By that we're talking about beliefs, really, because a belief maintains a problem. If you believe you didn't have the problem because you don't have the symptoms, guess what? Life would be pretty normal. Now, the event may still have occurred in your past and unconsciously may be influencing your behavior. But if it's not influencing your behavior and your brain has reprocessed the whole thing in a new way so that the original experience doesn't even exist anymore neurologically, then you don't have a problem. You know, when you catch a cold, you've got a cold. But when you're fine, you haven't got a cold, it doesn't mean the potential cold is there waiting to jump on you any moment. It's just gone. The next cold is a new cold. It's the same thing with memories and thoughts and beliefs. When they come up, it seems like the same thing, but it's not. It's a new experience of an old experience of experiencing. It's a little bit like when you remember something from childhood. It's actually not a memory of childhood. It's a memory of the last time you remembered that memory. And quite often it changes and is colored, because if it's an unpleasant memory, what happens is we feel something. So we have the memory or the thought, and that produces a feeling. And then we have the awareness of the feeling, which is again a new thought. So we now have a new thought about the feeling, which is a response to the thought about the last time we had the feeling, and it loops around and goes back. And of course, if out of control, it takes over. So we need to cut that loop, if you like, and so that cannot run. It doesn't mean that the issue actually is a bad issue anymore. It's just you believe it is because you re-experience it as if it's in the present moment. And so the whole idea of always going back and dealing with the real cause back there by going back to the experience and regressing and going back to it, that can work. But there are other choices. And the way that I work is to resolve it by just working on the representation of it here in the present, in the client's brain. Without a brain, guess what? You have no problem. Take out the brain, 1 session required, no problem anymore. So if we just work with the brain, we can change the way neurologically it processes our experience of the problem from the past that we feel in the present. And so I don't have this problem of deciding, shall I go at a deep level or shall I work in the here and now? It's not a cosmetic thing. It's about working with the brain using analogies and metaphors and hypnotic suggestion. And the whole idea of having goals is about moving ahead from the resolution of the symptom, or the problem, moving ahead from it. Because when we do resolve it in the way I'm describing, we are not just resolving the symptom, we are resolving the issue, the problem itself. They happen simultaneously because the brain no longer has it stored in there because it's been rewired. The old hardwiring has been overridden and rewired in this new way. But that's not really the therapy. That's creating, if you like, a new state of being. The therapy occurs in the future. How are you going to use this new state in your future life? And this is where the goals come in. We need now to work with the client to create goals and beliefs about the achievement of those goals that are realistic, but that are goals that could not even be conceived of prior to the therapy session. Each goal is like a landmark in the future. And when the client reaches it, it's like ratification, confirmation of the success of their therapy. So the goals are, if you like, markers. They're not just to make you feel great or to achieve some financial gain or whatever your goals are. They are a way of reinforcing the success of the therapy. And so we're planting these, we're seeding the ideas of the goals, again through analogies and metaphors and hypnotic suggestion. And that way it's a self-generating therapy throughout the client's life. Because therapy doesn't stop at the end of the session. It can't do, because the person goes back into the world which used to trigger the old thoughts and feelings and behaviors. We do not want reality, that old reality, to sabotage the good work in the therapy session. So we need to put some behavioral context into the therapy. Not just, okay, off you go, have a great life. That's not therapy. That's, I've done my bit and I haven't taught you how to do your bit yet. You need the client to know where they're going in the future. It doesn't have to be conscious. They don't have to consciously remember each step and where they're going and their goals. Sometimes it's better not to, because what we want them to do is discover that they're reaching their goals themselves without knowing that you were part of that process. We do not want acknowledgement or congratulations for helping them get better. We want them to celebrate their own success at being better. That way we empower them. We don't disempower them by making them feel they had to come to a therapist. They have to always go to someone else to sort it out. We want them to believe and feel and behave as if they've done it themselves. So the way we do that is we actually seed the idea of the goals by using hypnosis. We plant the seeds in hypnosis as a series of goals in the future that are at the unconscious level. So at the unconscious level, and the conscious mind won't even remember them, doesn't even know they happened, because we work indirectly. And that person goes off in a direction which is in accordance with their overall health, happiness, and well-being. The three things that are so important in therapy. Put this framework around everything you do. It's about empowering people in accordance with their overall health, happiness, and well-being. That's your job. That's our job as therapists. Well, Parsifal, I don't know if I've answered your question. But maybe if we're even part way to answering your question, Parsifal, I know you will. If we're part the way there, wonderful. The important thing, Parsifal, is when you're working with a client, the most important person in your life at that moment is not you. It's the other person. Okay? So everything you do should be about that other person. Not just you, but every therapist should have that as their perception of their relationships with other people, not just clients, other people. Because if that's your perception, guess what? Life is beautiful. It's an amazing experience. Healing, healthy experience. Therapists don't stop being therapists when they finish work. You don't just turn it on and off. I don't mean you take all your problems home. You don't need to do that. It won't even happen if you work this way. But when it comes from your heart and not your head, the therapy comes from your heart. It heals. And you can't turn that off. It happens wherever you are. Even at the checkout in the supermarket. I've done it many a time. Well, thank you for asking that question, Parsifal. Anyone else wants to ask me questions, please let me know, and I'll be very happy to make a video for you.